From SF Land, this is Dorking Out, a podcast for people who love to dork out about movies, TV, and everything pop culture.
Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and I'm recording this from the Suck Zone. Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. Hello, my friend.
Sonia, I just want to see it. I just want to see the center of it. I'm talking. The number of times Helen Hunt just needs to see it.
Just needs to see it.
Make me crazy.
But there's more, you guys. Also joining us is Dana Buckler from the Dana Buckler Show. Hi, Dana.
Hello, ladies. How are you? So happy to be on here. This is going to be such a great time. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited you're here.
And I just want to say that I'm trying to get the corporate sponsors because I'm in it for the money, not the science.
You're driving around in your black van. You're so sinister. If you guys can't tell, we're talking about 1996's Twister, starring Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton and Jami, Gertz and Cary Elwes. Is that how you pronounce it right? I'm terrible with names. God damn it.
That's okay.
And then a whole bunch of people that I forgot was in it, like Jeremy Davies and Alan Ruck and Phillip Seymour Hoffman. Phillip Seymour Hoffman. Written by Michael Crichton and Anne-Marie Martin and directed by Jean Debont, who also did... Jan. God damn it! I'm terrible with names. This is why I need you, Margo. This is why I need you. He also did Speed, which we just did an episode on a couple weeks ago. We did Speed and then Creed and now Twister.
Just one-word movies for a while.
So we wanted to do a big summer blockbuster to like get into June and get into the spirit. And for some reason, because we hate ourselves, we picked Twister. So let's start with Dana. What's your relationship with this movie?
Well, it's interesting. The thing about Twister is, look, I've made no bones about, if you listen to my show, that I'm so against sequels, prequels, and remakes. And the fact that Twister was sort of an original story that came out in 1996, I have to give it some brownie points for that. My actual relationship with the film is it's actually a very special movie to me, but not because of the movie itself. When in 1996, at the end of high school, I turned 18, and I promptly moved out on my own because I wanted to be a very independent young person. And I looked for an apartment that was close to a movie theater, so close that was walking distance. And I made it my mission to go to the movies at least 2 to 3 times a week because I could do that now. That was one of the things I could do as an adult.
I'm an adult and I'm going to the movies.
And I'm going to movies and I'm going and you know what? It's interesting because looking back, I was going to movies by myself back then, and that's a trend that's continued some 23 years later, but for different reasons now. But I will say this. This movie's very special to me because it was one of the first movies I saw with the new independent Dana saw. And so I have fond memories of seeing this movie. The movie itself, I mean, I don't know how much we're going to get into our thoughts of the film right now, but I can remember seeing it, and I think 18-year-old me was like, oh, that was great. That was a lot of fun. 41-year-old me watching it this morning was going, oh, this is something completely different.
So we find that to be the case a lot on this show, where we're like, this is a great idea. Let's watch Purple Rain. Like, in Purple Rain, the music's amazing. But then you watch it and you're like, oh. And I think Twister is kind of like that. Not to compare Twister to Purple Rain, but you know what I mean.
You mentioned
there's a lot of overflow there, though.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that Jan Debont was the director, and he was very famous or very well-known cinematographer. He was the cinematographer for Die Hard, and then he branched out, and like you lady said, you did an episode on Speed, and I love Speed, and Speed is a phenomenal film. But if you kind of look at Speed and you kind of look at Twister, there's one glaring similarity that I noticed between the two, especially this morning.
Is it Alan Ruck? Is it Alan Ruck?
It's Alan. It's Alan Ruck. It's Alan Ruck. But it's also
and Lois Smith.
it's also, I don't feel like he can get a good performance out of Sandra Bullock And, Keanu was Keanu in 94, no explanation needed. But I've always kind of noticed that he can't really get good performances out of the smaller supporting characters. And I'm sure we'll get into that in just a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was true with Speed as well. So that was one of the first similarities I noticed between the two. But I also want to say about Twister is this was, I think, his first foray into, sort of that amalgamation of CG and still lots of practical effects, which they weren't necessarily working in 96. But I applaud him for at least trying.
Yeah, my husband works in the visual effects industry, and I asked him, like, what do people think about Twister? And he said that the Twister is actually like a movie that a lot of visual effects artists think of as like a very early example of what they call particle effects. Here's where it gets really dorky. And they use it now for like water, rain, dust, fire, like any explosion you see in a movie. They use that stuff all the time, but this was like really early versions of that. And I actually think the visual effects, a lot of it holds up pretty nice. It's kind of, the movie, it looks all right. It looks good. It doesn't feel good, but it looks good.
There are some effects that I'll give you that do look really good. The word I want to use is kind of rudimentary, but that's not a bad thing because that was still, the CG was still a little bit groundbreaking for the time. I don't know if it. There was some stuff, but we'll talk about some stuff I don't think holds up as well. Cows, for example, but that's another
fact. Margo, what's your relationship with the movie? Did you see it in the theater?
I totally saw it in the theater, and back in 96, I saw a lot of movies in the theater, and I also went by myself quite a bit. I like going to the movies by myself, really.
Me too. I go all the time.
Yeah, I love it. I don't understand people who can't do it. We're just two different people. But I was actually sucked in by the special effects in the trailer.
No pun
the
intended,
trailer,
I assume.
Yes. But yeah, we'll do a lot of puns today. But I actually really was drawn to it. When I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be a great story, but I thought like the special effects and these are really good actors. And the trailer had Phillip Seymour Hoffman like starring in it basically. There's a Twister coming. Do you remember that? And I was like, well, he's a good actor. Like, oh, this is going to be great. And then I remember seeing the movie theater and just sort of like, okay, there's stuff here that the storms themselves are very scary and very realistic. But good God, the story, the dialogue is fucking terrible. Like, I don't care about Helen Hunt or Bill, and why is Bill bringing his fiance with him into the middle of a goddamn storm? Like, this is like Michael Crichton's hand here.
Yeah.
Michael Crichton was great at setting up a plot and the science and things, but dialogue, and especially between men and women, not good. Yeah. And he wrote with his wife. And it's just like they didn't make it ultimately.
Maybe they didn't want to hurt each other's feelings by saying that that's stupid.
Yeah.
Like any movie when a character says like, "Are we having fun yet?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck this. Like, come on, you guys. Right. You got nothing else. Like, are we having fun yet? We're not in Kansas anymore." I'm like, "Oh."
Well, yeah, they have the Dorothy thing there. Oh, yeah. But also, like, Helen Hunt, somebody said to her, Phillip Seymour Hoffman says, "What was it like?" And she just pauses and says, "Windy." And that's like the big joke.
Right.
I was like, this movie. Okay, here's my first question. Dr. Joe Harding, Helen Hunt, is she insane? Is she clinically insane?
Well, I think she's insane for wearing a white tank top during all of this.
That never gets dirty, by the way. Yeah. And her hair always looks great. And she's out in the rain all the time. But I mean, I understand. I like the way the movie starts, like with the family and the bunker. And then I always forget that the dad dies. Spoiler. But the father flying away. I thought like, oh God, this is really effective. And then it's just like it goes downhill so quickly. I mean, like you said, I don't care about anybody. I can't differentiate between all the people and the buses and the vans.
Well, we need that origin story, right? It's like watching the Waynes die in the comic book movies over and over and over. Yes. We need to know that a tornado killed her dad and that she's basically Batman now and she's going to get her vengeance.
Right. Yeah. But she's constantly putting people in danger. And putting herself, and she's constantly like turning her head back, like, I gotta look. Like, seriously, it's like she needs medication. This is a person that needs a lot of help.
Well,
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say to what you just said there was, what struck me is like when she's doing this whole, I've got to look, I've got to see it, I've got to see it. You're a storm chaser. Are you telling me you've never seen a tornado before? Are we to believe that this is the first time that you've actually seen the tornadoes? I'm like, wait a second. And there's 100 documentaries about tornadoes and all. And anyway, I was watching that today with sort of jaw on the floor, like, wait a second. You've never seen a tornado before? You guys you tell all these crazy stories about how wild Bill Paxton was. And this is the first time you need to see it. So
it's after all those years. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense.
You said it right, Margo, when you said, like, she's an asshole. Like, Joe's an asshole. Like, and I don't like pretty much every character in this movie. Like, I think Joe's an asshole. I think Dusty, that's Phillip Seymour Hoffman's character, he's kind of a creep. He's
rapey.
He's got busy
he's
hands.
So handsy.
He's busy hands.
So handsy.
Yeah, I think Bill, that's the Bill Paxton character, he's kind of a dick who ditches, not kind of, he's a dick who ditches his fiancée at like the first sight of a tornado, puts her in harm's way repeatedly. And like, actually the only character I really liked was the Jami Gertz character in the thankless girlfriend role.
Well, but she's always on the phone.
Yeah,
in the middle of a goddamn storm.
I feel bad for her.
Yeah, because she's a good actress. She can do a lot.
But he's always putting her in harm's way.
You were talking about Phillip Seymour Hoffman, Dusty, being a little handsy. Did anyone catch this? Like when they first when Bill Paxton and his fiance show up, and he just pawns her off on Dusty, like he says, Dusty, just explain to her why you are the way you are. And Bill Paxton goes to talk to Helen Hunt, and you see Dusty and Jami Gertz walking back in the background, and they're holding hands. And I'm just going, what? I'm like, what is going on here? Like,
he's busy hands. And later, Dusty would go on to run for president.
Yes.
Dusty is like every guy in college that I was like, I was nice to, and then you get a couple of beers in them, and all of a sudden they're all over you. Like it's like you try to be a little bit nice to him, and he takes it the whole other way. He's constantly like invading her personal space. He says sexual things to this woman. I mean, he's so fucking creepy to everybody. He's like it's a Lois Smith, her aunt. He's all over her because he wants a steak. Like, oh my God.
Can you tell me what he does? I have an idea of what everyone's job role in this sort of group, except what his role is, except to drive the bus. Like I don't understand exactly. He drives the bus. I don't understand what his actual job is.
He plays bad music. Like that music is shit that they're playing out in the middle of nowhere. And and all of them dress like they're all from Banana Republic or Gap ads, like all white people, cargo pants. The girl looks just as, sexless as the other ones. It's very, very strange. And it's different from the bus in Speed, because at least they try to make people look different from one another so you could differentiate between the passengers. People jumped out of a van. I had no idea who they were.
Yeah. Well, and they spend so much time, they're just in the cars, like yelling things. So it's like, woo, it's coming, yeah! And then they play the music and they're laughing. And what road do we take? And I'm like, oh my God, this movie could be a half hour shorter if they just like trim this part up a little bit. By the way, it's almost 2 hours long, so everyone knows I'm going to say it's too long. This movie's too long.
It's too goddamn long. Yeah. And also they're whooping it up, and like people around them are getting killed or having their homes decimated. Oh God, the last shot of this movie, you see these people come out of the ground. It's parents and their kids. Their home has been destroyed, and everyone's just kind of slapping each other on the back like, we did it, we made it.
And now I'm going to make out with my wife.
I'm going to make out with my white T-shirt wearing wife. They're good arms.
By the way, Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt have like no chemistry. None. Like zero chemistry to me. And they are a terrible couple. I guess we're supposed to assume that they're really in love because they fight a lot. I don't buy it for 1 second. They have like zero chemistry.
No, they have a lot of rage in common. I think that's what it is. But they're like the couple you go out to dinner with and like they start sniping at each other. And you're like, oh my God.
I've been out
Can we
to
just leave?
I have been out to
we all
dinner with
have.
that couple for sure.
You've been on a double date with that couple that like secretly hates each other, but they get off on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they don't get off on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's
exactly.
get dessert. And you're like, that's cool. No thanks. I'm on a diet. I have to relieve the sitter. I have to, like, any
Gotta
reason.
wash my hair.
Any reason to run.
Can we talk about Cary Elwes' accent for a moment? Can we talk about everybody's accent just for a moment? Like Bill
Please.
Paxton, Helen Hunt, and Phillip Seymour Hoffman, they're using their normal accents, but it seems like a lot of other people are really trying to get a hold of that, that Oklahoma, Southern Midwest type accent. And Cary Elwes, what are we doing? And it's like his character is I was so befuddled watching this movie going, I don't understand. And that whole line where Bill Paxton says, he went ahead and got himself some corporate sponsors. He's in it for the money, not the science. What are you talking about?
Who cares?
I don't even understand what that line is. Bill Paxton, it looks like you guys could use some money. Have you seen your
Yes.
vehicles? I mean, what are we talking about? But I'm sorry. The original question was Cary Elwes' accent. Can someone tell me? Because I genuinely don't know. Is he American? Is he British? I don't know.
He's British.
Okay.
In life. You mean in life, the actor?
In life, yes.
He's British.
Yes. Okay. So I didn't know that. Okay.
So his accent is what he thinks people from Oklahoma sound like, I guess.
And
Yes.
Jami Gertz, too. She's going that southern twangy thing as well.
Well, they're all
And-
just trying to add something to their boring ass characters. Like,
I
I'll
think that's what
give
they're
him an accent, or maybe I'll give him a funny hat or a monocle, or like anything. They're trying anything to like make the characters.
She's on the
int-
phone
I'm
all
on the phone all the
time.
time.
No,
The phone
you're
doesn't run
not
out of
getting
batteries?
you're not getting phone reception in the middle of nowhere right now, because I have the latest iPhone XS Max, whatever phone you want, and it gets terrible reception. And I live in a city, and there's no way that Jami Gertz with that 1996 Motorola is getting reception in the middle of a storm, in the middle of a tornado. I can't believe that's actually happening.
I can't believe that this movie needed to add villains. I'm like,
Right,
aren't the tornadoes the villains? Like, do we
Right.
need, they drive the black vans and they have money and therefore they're evil. And then they give them, spoilers for Twister, everyone, a really gruesome death that I was like,
Yeah.
they didn't deserve that.
But you see, they didn't listen to Bill Paxton. So
what
they
you
had
get.
to die. That's what you get.
It's pretty
And he and
shitty.
Helen Hunt are almost killed constantly.
Yeah.
And they barely have a scratch on them.
Don't you think that, like, I was thinking about this after the movie was over, and I was, again, speaking about the character of Jonas, how much better would it have been? He's kind of this asshole throughout the entire movie who stole Bill Paxton's, revolutionary design to measure tornadoes. Like, how much better would it have been if, like, in the last scene, he comes out of nowhere and saves them? And all of a sudden you get this redemption arc where, like, okay, he's not the world's worst person, but no, he gets that terrible death with the F5 tornado. But I was just thinking, like, I would have been more satisfied overall with his character, because, these guys didn't need to die. I mean,
No, they needed to team up. You're right.
They
That would
could have
been
teamed up to fight the tornadoes together, kind of like when Godzilla and King Kong fight together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And also, like, they're talking about the evils of corporate sponsorships. And we know that Pepsi paid a shitload of money to be featured throughout this movie. So I call bullshit on that.
Yeah,
I mean,
Pepsi was the integral. The whole thing wasn't going to work unless they had Pepsi cans. Like, Pepsi saved the day. That's basically the message we got, because they had to all the little sensors. They had to cut Pepsi cans together. And
how many Pepsi cans did they get, by the way? I mean, to make all those damn things.
there's not a house in sight. There's not a store in sight, but they've got all these Pepsi cans.
That's probably what Phillip Seymour Hoffman's character does,
That's
right?
all
He
he
just
drinks
goes
is
around and
Pepsi.
picks up cans, and that's his second job.
I mean, I wonder, like, Jeremy Davies is in this movie. There's a guy, Joey Slotnick, who's in a lot of different movies. Like, there's just so many. They're just loaded up with so many secondary characters that do nothing. They all just look the same. And I just,
And they yell
one
things.
guy gets sliced in the head. I mean, I think he just keeps going. They don't take him to the hospital. Like, it looked like a deep cut.
I love that other people around them get hurt, but Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton are able to, like, get sucked into tornadoes basically, I think 2 or 3 times, but they don't get sucked up because, they just hold on really tight. You guys, just hold on really tight. It's going to be fine.
No, it's the belt at the end. They had a belt wrapped around them, and the entire barn went away, but not them. A thing that could take cars.
Wouldn't it just cut them in half?
This movie's giving bad advice. Like, they should have a disclaimer at the beginning, like they do with the Fast and Furious movies. Do not attempt these stunts at home. Like this, there needs to be a big disclaimer at the beginning. Like, by the way, if you do any of the things you see in this movie during a tornado, you are going to die. So don't do this. Do not try this at home.
What do you think of that scene where they go to Aunt Meg's house? I mean, it's just, and she happens to have like 12 steaks ready to go to like feed everyone.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't have just like 12 steaks lying around and 500 eggs?
But we're supposed to like care about the divorce. Like the whole thing is Bill's bringing divorce papers for her to sign, and she can't remember to sign them. So I'm going to follow her right into a goddamn tornado to get her to sign them.
It's not that she can't remember; it's that she doesn't want to remember because she's still in love with him.
Oh,
Don't you see? They still love each other.
Oh God, so much.
They're so and they're so good together. The aunt says so. She wouldn't lie. She's so nice. She has 50 steaks.
Do you know what Speed didn't have? A love story. And I just want to point out, Yonda Bond, Speed, great movie. Everyone loves it. Universally loved. Twister, you're putting this crazy love triangle story in a movie. No one's paying their $6 at the time to see that aspect of the story. I paid my money to see the tornadoes. That's why I paid it. So
this couple that they're miserable pricks. I don't want them together anyway. But I don't like either of them. I wish they had died, actually. Is that awful? Maybe that would have been a really good movie. At the end, they get sucked up in there, too. The end.
Like Thelma and Louise?
Yeah.
You know, just kind of hold hands and drive right into it.
And then it ends with like, come on, baby, let's do the twist or something like that. A whole other movie. I'm like, I'm going to pitch that idea. Let's see what happens.
You mentioned the they're going to Aunt Meg's house, and look, I live by myself, and like I get anxiety if one person comes over sometimes, and I can't imagine if like a whole group of people showed up and they're like, hey, we need to use your shower, we need to use. I just no, you guys, no, like I wouldn't be able to handle that.
It's like the first scene in The Hobbit where like all the dwarves show up and like he's like no, like trying to like corral these dwarves, and they're just destroying his home. That's basically what's happening to Meg.
You know what? I guarantee you that's where Peter Jackson got his inspiration from. You nailed it. That's a perfect example. Because I was getting anxiety watching that. I was like, oh my God, and the mess she's going to have to clean up afterwards. Are they helping to do the dishes? I mean, what are we talking about? No.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like they got to go. Hey, thanks, Meg. Got to go.
Yeah. Yeah, her niece comes over with all of her creepy friends, and Mr. Grabby Grab, Phillip Seymour Hoffman's touching her, and she's has to cook up 50 steaks, and then they run away. They're assholes, all of them.
They're assholes, yeah. But that's when we get all the backstory about the F1 versus the F4 and the F5. We're supposed to care, and it's like, I don't care.
And how Bill Paxton's the extreme.
He's so extreme.
So extreme.
I just want to say that it's extremely comforting to know that I wasn't the only one that wasn't enjoying the movie after I watched it, because I'm going on. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to go on this podcast. I really respect the two people I'm going to be talking to, and if they love this movie, I'm in trouble. That's all that was going through my mind.
Well, that really worked out. I was also worried that you were going to come on and be like, I actually kind of like it. And I would be like, wow, I need to delete all these notes. Start over. But I know that people have affection for this movie. I don't know why they do, but they do. And I'm like, is it because it was basically on TNT like all the time? Like all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first T stood for Twister on TNT.
Was it TBS was the Beastmaster station?
Exactly.
It's one of those movies, and I've talked about this before, like You put it on, you know exactly where it's going to go if you've seen it enough. And it's like, you can do 10 other things and have this movie on. And like fold laundry, paint your house, whatever. And you could leave the room and come back and know exactly where you are. It's not trying your brain at all. And every once in a while, I do think it's cool, the drive-in scene where everybody goes to the basement. I thought that was actually scary and terrifying. I kind of was in it there, but every other time I was totally bored.
Yeah, I genuinely thought that drive-in scene. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I genuinely thought watching it this morning that was probably the best set piece of the entire movie, because sure. I did feel the tension, and because of the fact that it was at night and you couldn't see. So at least we're shitting on this movie left and right, but to be fair, there are a couple really, I think, good scenes in this movie. And the drive-in, I think, is an excellent scene. Yeah. So I don't want everyone listening to think that we just completely hated this movie, but you know, there's definitely there's some good in this movie, I would say.
It's not pure evil.
That's not pure. No, I like this. I liked the Shining playing in the background on the screen, and then all of a sudden Jack Nicholson's going to go through the door, and all of a sudden the tornado comes through. Like, I thought, okay, that's clever, that's interesting. And like I said, it was genuinely scary. And that one guy, like we said, got sliced in the head, and I thought he was dead, but you know, apparently he just needs a little white bandage around his head. He's good to go. He can drive.
I did like it when they're running from the final big evil tornado and they run into the barn and it's filled with like a million sharp objects that could kill them.
Oh, that's good.
I did like that. I was like, good touch. That was funny.
Yeah, that I enjoyed too.
I will. Oh, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you know, I was thinking about that drive-in scene. It ends with Jami Gertz making the only reasonable decision that any character makes in the entire movie, and that is to leave. Yeah. She has had enough. She's like, I'm out. And she's the one person who should really be credited for making the right decision. She's like, I'm out.
And she gives him the nicest breakup ever. She absolves him of like any wrongdoing ever. I was like, you're a good person, Jami Gertz. You're like helping. She's in the middle of tornadoes, like taking calls and trying to help her patients, and then gives Bill Paxton like the pass to like go be crazy with Helen Hunt. I'm like, you're nice. I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, fuck you.
You nearly had me killed the last 2 days.
Yeah, asshole. And you're a shitty weatherman. And I don't believe you could talk to tornadoes. Or whatever it is he thinks he does. I'd be a huge asshole. But also, to be fair, I'm a huge asshole.
Not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. No. But
this is one of my questions I love to ask. Do you think Bill and Joe are still together?
Oh, God, no.
No, one of them got caught up in the suck zone shortly after this because they got Dorothy to work. So they're just like, all right. And they probably got their corporate, you know, the corporate financing they were looking for because they got Dorothy to work. So they're listen. Yeah, Twister 2 is going to show this crew basically doing what Jonas and his crew are doing now because they So, but no, you've got to think that one of them had got caught up in the suck zone.
I would assume so. And I assume because Jonas is dead that his sponsors were then like, well, we need to sponsor someone else. And they just get them. And it's like NASCAR. They just start covering their cars and logos and stuff.
What logos would there be on there? Like Noah? Like, I'm just trying to think. Like
Pepsi.
Doppler radar logo and Pepsi.
I was like, what does he mean by corporate sponsorships?
I thought the same thing. I was like, what corporations are sponsoring these? Like the National Hurricane Foundation? I don't even get it.
I don't get it. Dyson. Dyson, right? Dyson. The vacuum, I assume?
Yeah, Dyson.
Dyson. Who else? I don't know. I can't think of it all. Pepsi, I guess.
But he says, you know, he's in it for the money. Well, I would hope that if, you know, how blessed could you be to have a job that you love and you're making money doing it? Like, I've never understood. That was supposed to be such a throwaway line, but it bothered me so much.
It bothered me too.
He's in it for the money. Well, we should hope so. I hope you're making money from this because it means you're doing your job well. And maybe you're saving lives along the line. It was a bad line.
The idea that they're supposed to be helping people. Like, we want to track storms so that we can figure out how they start so that we can give people more warning. I would say the more people working on that, the better.
Yeah.
You know, what the fuck, Bill Paxton?
He's in it for the money. Line, I'm sorry.
I'm in it for the love of NATO's, man. What a dick. They're all such dicks. Oh my gosh.
This movie was a big hit, though, if I remember correctly. Like, I haven't looked at any box office numbers or anything like that, but this movie was this was one of those ones that, like, Independence Day in '96, like, it was all the rage. It wasn't Independence Day level,
right?
But I remember, like, there was, like, I saw this, like, opening day, like 11 a.m. Like, I definitely want to see this movie when it came out. So I remember.
Yeah, before we end the episode, we'll talk about, like, what were the top 10 movies of 96. And like you'll see, like, Twister made a shit ton of money. And when a movie makes a lot of money like that, it usually means that people have gone back and watched it, like, more than once. And I'm fascinated that anybody would go back and watch it again. But that first trailer, like Margo said, was awesome. It had an amazing trailer that ended with, like, a huge tire, like, smashing into a window, and everyone was like, oh, because I worked at a movie theater, and that trailer was in front of, like, every movie we had, and every audience was like, oh, like, that when that scene happened. It had such a great trailer, and I was really excited to see Twister, especially because I love Speed so much, and then I was so disappointed.
Well, can I tell you that I live about 45 miles from Universal Studios, and in '98, they opened up Twister the Ride. And I don't know if either of you have been down to the theme park it was met with a lot of controversy because by the way, they had to delay the opening of the ride by like 6 months because a massive tornado outbreak happened in the area.
Oh, Jesus.
Of course.
So they had, and the people were saying, well, it's super insensitive for you to open up this Twister ride when, I mean, I was down here. It was insane. And I did the ride, and I've been to Universal Studios probably 10 times over the past 20 years. And it was the most boring ride I've ever been on my life. I remember when it was over, like, we thought when the ride was over, my friends and I, we genuinely thought we were still, because it's one that you just walk through and you stop, and it's got like this, you're inside this building, but it's got the mock-up of like a Midwestern farm town, and went like this Twister, just this tornado just comes by, and a big fake cow flies by you. And when the ride was over, I said to my friends, well, when does the actual ride start? Because I thought we were still in the waiting area. Because sometimes when you go to these theme parks, they have these fun little things for you to do while you're waiting to get on the actual ride, and then the doors open and everybody just leaves. And I was just remember looking at my friends like, are you fucking kidding me? That's what I waited an hour and a half for? And I invite you to go on YouTube and just type in Twister the Ride. It's not there anymore. It was definitely the least popular ride that Universal Studios in Orlando has ever put together.
It sounds not cool. You know why? Because Universal's just in it for the money, man. They don't care.
Right. They only care about the corporate sponsors.
Yeah. Assholes.
Oh, so good.
The Universal Studios here in California had an earthquake ride that also had like a similar backlash where people were like, how insensitive, because we had the huge earthquake in '89. And then people were like, how insensitive that you have this earthquake ride. And it was that same kind of backlash. And also the ride was kind of lame.
Yes.
Well, earthquakes are kind of lame also because they last for like 30 seconds and then they're done. I mean, the big ones are terrible and terrifying. So what would be the point of it?
Right.
Well, I'd also like to point out that they recently closed the Jaws ride at Universal in Orlando, so I have not been back since.
I don't like that. That's not cool.
Just a little plug because they had to make room for this. I don't know what this little thing called Harry Potter Land. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know, but it is what it is. But let's just say I was very upset.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry.
That is a bummer though. Although I bet the Harry Potter stuff's rad.
it's from what I understand, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So there was like a ton of these disaster movies around this time. So I made a list and I thought maybe we could go through some of them.
Okay.
So Twister came out in '96 and Daylight also came out in '96. Did you guys see Daylight?
I don't even know what that is.
That's the one. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Please go ahead. Please.
That's the one with Stallone, right? And he's in the tunnel.
It's the one.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Tunnel.
Yep. And
I
then
saw that. Yep.
Independence Day came out.
Of course.
I think Independence Day was super fun. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I bet I would like it more than Twister.
I love Independence Day up until when the actual alien attack happens. The aftermath, everything after that, I think is secondary. But I think that first 45 minutes to an hour where we're building up to the attack, I think is like, I agree with you. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it falls off a cliff afterwards.
Yeah.
So
I need to revisit. I'm going to put it on my list. And then in 97, we started getting these like competing movies. So we got Dante's Peak and Volcano.
Right.
Which I think I remember liking Dante's Peak and not Volcano. Are you team Dante or team Volcano?
I don't know the difference between them.
It's interesting. I thought Dante's Peak had a little more realistic aspect to it versus Volcano, there was a volcano in downtown Los Angeles that was just breaking out. I think Volcano is a super fun, watchable disaster film, which is ridiculously silly. And Dante's Peak takes itself way more serious than I think it needed to, given the subject matter. I saw Dante's Peak in the theater. I saw Volcano on VHS. If I remember correctly.
I'm pretty sure I saw all of these in the theater because I used to see everything. Dante's Peak also had Pierce Brosnan and I think Linda Hamilton, and then Volcano was like Tommy Lee Jones and Anne Heche.
That's right.
If that helps you, Margo.
Yeah.
And
now it's not coming through. Yeah.
And then in 89 we had Deep Impact and Armageddon. Oh, don't even 89? Get me started. Yeah, I'm sorry, 98. Sorry, 98.
98. Yeah, no, I like Deep Impact. I think it's stupid, but I love it. I find it very enjoyable. Armageddon, I'm not a big fan of, but I love Deep Impact. I can watch that.
So I saw Deep Impact in the theater, and it was one of those ones where I was like, "Can we just get to it? Can we get to what I saw in the trailer?" I'm seeing the entire island of Manhattan just being washed away, and I'm like, "Can we just get to this? This is what I paid my money for." And I just thought the pace of the film was so slow until the end. And so I skipped seeing Armageddon in the theater. I'm like, I don't want to sit through something like that again. And then watched Armageddon maybe a year later. And will admit that much like Independence Day, I think Armageddon is a lot of fun until they actually fly into space and to take on the asteroid. So that's my my feeling on that one.
And you just love that Aerosmith song. I get it. I get it. It's a good song. It's your jam. I got it.
I think I've only heard it once or twice in my life. So
you need to go to more weddings, my friend.
Yes.
Do you guys want to hear some of the top 10 movies of 96, or do we have more things we want to say about Twister?
Well, I'd like to say this. I'm surprised. Well, let's just put it this way. If this movie had been released this year or last year or in the past few years, as is, obviously with current special effects, current CGI, and it had been a hit, they would have already greenlit six more sequels. What they would have done is they would have created a cinematic universe involving every type of natural disaster. and I genuinely believe that. But one thing I will say about Twister is it still, to me, represents a movie that was hugely successful, but it was a story that had a beginning, middle, and end, and it was done. And they said, all right, well, we don't need to touch on this subject anymore. So I respect the fact that it came out in a time period when movies were, one and done. And I don't mean that as an insult.
Right. I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't make more, considering how much money it made. But I think you're right about we'd have like a whole like natural disaster cinematic universe.
Absolutely.
We'd have earthquakes and floods and
hurricane versus typhoon type thing would be going on. But they would at least give it a try. I can promise you they would have given it a try.
For sure. Margo, do you have anything else you want to say about Twister?
Absolutely not.
I don't want to waste another thought. So here's the top 10 movies of 96. Number 10 was Eraser.
Okay, saw that in the theater. Schwarzenegger he was still like, I like to say that Schwarzenegger's last great movie was 1994's True Lies. Yeah. And this was him still trying to recapture that magic. And if I remember, Eraser was directed by Chuck Russell, but what really took me out of the film was the CGI alligators were so bad in that movie. I mean, even in the trailer, like, whoa, I can't believe you showed that in the trailer.
That's why that was my favorite part, because it was so ridiculous.
It was so bad. So yeah, I remember seeing that movie. That's a thumbs down for me.
Margo, did you see Eraser?
No, but peak Schwarzenegger for me is Kindergarten Cop.
Okay.
It's not a Tuma.
I love that movie.
Number 9 was Jerry Maguire.
Ugh. I'm sorry.
I love that that's your reaction to Jerry Maguire. That's hilarious.
It's my reaction to Cameron Crowe movies. I just they're so.
Is that Cameron Crowe movies across the board?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan.
Okay.
Even
okay.
say
I don't hate them
anything,
all, but they're not my favorite.
Even say anything.
Yeah.
No,
I like Say Anything. I don't love it.
Oh
no,
my
I know.
gosh. Okay, we need to put some of his movies on the list then. That would be a fun
definitely.
discussion. Everyone will listen to Margo and I get drunk and start yelling at each other and then crying. I love you though. I love you.
As far as me for Jerry Maguire, I didn't see that in the theater. I think it was marketed differently. I don't think it was marketed for me. I think it was marketed as just this pure romance film.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I think I would have been, like I said, I was 18, and I don't think I was like running to the theater to see movies like that. Now, having said that, when I did see it, I find it to be a very watchable and honestly, an enjoyable film. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I listen, I can't believe I've never even done an episode on Tom, but I'm a big fan of Tom. So
Tom,
especially
he's a movie
Tom
star.
Cruise.
Yes.
He's
Tom,
a great movie star.
Yes.
As a person, no.
No.
But as a movie star, yes.
Yes. So Tom is one of the very few people. They cast sometimes. In the old days they used to cast people, and just on the strength of that person, you would go see that movie. And Tom is one of those people that I still make it a point to go see pretty much everything he's been in. So I give Jerry Maguire a pass.
Yeah.
I feel the way about Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I like him a lot, and I try to see everything he's in.
Not me. I hate Tom Hanks. He's an asshole. Could you imagine someone saying? Could you imagine someone saying that about Tom
Someone
Hanks?
Does. Someone out there just to be contrary saying it.
I'm like
now. So right now, somebody's sitting in their car, or they're listening in their earbuds, and they're going, "Someone finally gets me."
I'm gonna send Sonia a fan letter. She gets me. If somebody says they don't like Tom Hanks, I'm just like, get the fuck out of here, you Russian bot. There's no way. There's no way that's a thing. Number 8 is The Nutty Professor.
I like The Nutty Professor.
I think that. Did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Did you say you like it or you don't like it?
Oh, I like it very much.
Okay, yeah, so do I. I love that movie. I think it's one of his best films, and that's saying a lot because he's put out some really good movies.
He's really great in that movie.
Yeah.
He really is. Number 7, this is like Margo's favorite, Ransom with Mel Gibson.
I think that's an enjoyable movie. I have my issues with Mel Gibson, but I think it's a Ron Howard movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's your problem with Mel Gibson? Dude seems awesome. Everyone,
we have
please.
A show called What a Creep.
Yeah. Everyone, please go
out.
download our episode about Mel Gibson on What a Creek. What a Creep, not What a Creek. That's a different show where we talk about Schitt's Creek.
Or Dawson's.
Or Dawson's Creek. Oh my God. No, let's not do that. We have too many podcasts. Number 6, 101 Dalmatians. I assume this is the live action one with Glenn Close.
With Glenn Close?
I don't think I saw this one.
I haven't seen it.
Nope.
And then number 5 is The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Nope.
I
haven't seen it.
I saw that one, but I don't ever revisit it, so I guess I didn't like it. Number 4 was The Rock. Yeah.
I've got something to say about The Rock.
I want to hear it.
It is hands down my favorite Michael Bay film. And that's not saying a lot because I don't like most Michael Bay films.
I was going to say.
That's a low
bar. Watchable. It's very watchable.
It is to me. I think it's a movie that just focuses on, it does its job. It is all about, like, there's no side plots going on with love stories and romances like Twister. It is just a pure action film, and I think it's great. You can see glimpses of the asshole that Michael Bay will become in that film. But I think he's still somewhat restrained, and I appreciate that most of the stunt work in it is all practical with a little bit of CGI there. So I'm always going to have a really soft spot for The Rock. I love that movie, actually. To be honest with you, I love it. So.
I love The Rock too. I think it's super fun.
I like it very much.
That one would be fun to revisit, Margo.
Totally, I'm in.
Number 3 is Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I guess this is the first Mission Impossible. I remember seeing that and being like, meh. But then now I love the Mission Impossible movies, so I should go
find
back.
them very entertaining.
I don't like this one. I saw this one twice in the theater on the strength of Tom Cruise and Brian De Palma. And this is one of those ones where I had to go back and watch it again and say, am I missing something? Because everybody really seems to love it. I mean, the whole scene in the CIA when they're stealing the knock list is incredible. And that is a clinic on how you film tension. And I love that scene. That scene, frankly, should have been at the end of the movie, because after that, everything's kind of a letdown. And Mission Impossible 2 is just so batshit crazy. Everyone needs to see it. And then the movies just got really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those weird things where the movies actually get better as they go. And but I'm not a big fan of the first Mission Impossible, and it might be one of the reasons why on my show I haven't done the franchise yet. A lot of people ask me to do that, and I just haven't looked at it yet, because it's that getting over that first couple hurdles of the first and second movie.
Yeah, I had the same reaction to the first one, because everyone I saw it with really liked it, and I was like, why don't I like it? I thought I would like this, and I like the same scene you did. That's the best scene in the whole movie. But I couldn't get past the ripping off, wearing disguises and ripping off. I was like, that's really weird. And later they do it in the other movies, and I'm fine with it. I don't know why. Maybe I need to go back and revisit.
Well, that's directly from the TV show, so they kind of had to do that. Yeah,
they have to. Can't do anything different. So number 2 is Twister, which I don't know if you guys know is a movie about tornadoes. And then number 1 is Independence Day.
Oh, okay.
Which made almost double what Twister did. So it looks like Twister made almost 500,000, or 490, and Independence Day made over $800 million.
Independence Day, I remember as my most anticipated movie of that year. And again, let's look at I was 18 years old. I mean, this movie was marketed for, I think the 16 to 24-year-olds, but it was one of those rare phenomenons where everybody went to go see this. I saw this with my parents.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to see this movie. And unlike, I call it sort of the Star Wars or the Jaws effect, where everybody saw Jaws, everybody saw Star Wars, everybody loved those movies. I think a lot of people walked away from Independence Day with really mixed feelings about the film, because, you said you're going to rewatch it. You put it on the list. And I stand by what I said about the first, 45 minutes to an hour really being good. But man, the humor, or the lack of the attempted humor in this movie, especially at the end during the big climax scene, is so ill-advised that I can't recommend the film to people.
Yeah. But it like you said, this was Independence Day was another one with the trailer. The trailer was
the trailer was incredible.
Damn, they blew up the White House. That was a thing that everyone was like, holy shit.
Only thing I remember about the Super Bowl in 1996 was that Independence Day trailer. I remember my friends and I were like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
It looked insane.
And that movie played at my theater, and it played all summer long, and it was packed all summer long. It was very, very, very popular.
I have to ask you both, did either of you see the sequel?
Nope.
Hard pass.
I tried. Oh, I tried.
I heard it's terrible.
Oh, and it's not even for some reason, call me a glutton for punishment, but I like a lot of the Roland Emmerich films, like The Day After and 2012. I have fun with those movies. Man, is this one not one of those movies? It is terrible on a different kind of level. Like I didn't finish it. Maybe it has a good ending. I don't know. I made it about a half an hour into the film and I was out.
Yeah, no, it's not even on my list. Nothing about it grabbed me, I guess.
No.
You can't even, like, if it comes on streaming, like on Netflix or any service you might have, don't watch it because you can't get those 2 hours back. And I'm sure there's more things there's more productive things you could do, like nap or drink
watch
coffee,
TV.
watch TV, or watch anything else but that.
I could watch Twister again.
You go watch Twister again.
So do you guys want to hear about the top songs of 96?
Yes.
I do.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the number one song that year was the Macarena, Los Del Rio.
That was like Independence Day. Everybody knew that song.
Played everywhere. Everyone did the dance.
You couldn't go to a sporting event where they didn't play that song and people would stand up and dance, and it was a thing.
And number two was One Sweet Day, Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men.
Aww.
Yeah. Because You Loved Me, Celine Dion. Remember that song?
That song is from the movie Up Close and Personal with Robert Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Yep.
And that movie played at my theater, so I had to listen to that song like 5 times a day for like 2 months.
Is that movie any good?
No.
I don't remember it being particularly good, but it's pretty watchable because they are, I don't know if you know this, Robert Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer are really good looking.
And they have some chemistry, but the story itself is dumb.
I love Robert Redford, so I need to probably watch this one.
It's no Legal Eagles, I'll just say.
No, okay. I do enjoy Legal Eagles, actually. As stupid as that is, I really enjoy it. Always Be My Baby from Mariah Carey.
Oh.
And then number 5 was Nobody Knows, the Tony Rich Project. I don't remember that song.
It's an R&B song. Excuse me, R&B song if I remember,
I don't know that one either.
Yeah,
that's
the top 5.
I actually listened to music back then, so I'm surprised I don't know that.
Yeah, but that's the top 5 from 96.
Good list.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Want to hear a side story about music?
Absolutely.
Who doesn't? Okay, so I went to my brother's wedding a couple weeks ago, and they're playing all this music that I don't know because I'm old and I only listen to podcasts now. And my sister's like, this is Bruno Mars. And I was like, okay, I know who Bruno Mars is. I just didn't know this song. And she's like, well, what do you listen to? And I was like, are they going to play like theme songs from like My Favorite Murder or something? Then I'll be out. Are they going to play some true crime podcasts? I'll be out there getting down. Like, I'm so lame. I'm not cool anymore.
It's one of those weird things where, look, can I just tell you something? Can I give you,
yes.
I have to vent to somebody because what happened to me 2 nights ago is I almost had to pull my phone out and document what was going on. And this is really in reference to, are we getting old, or is the younger generation, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, just completely out of touch? And I want to explain. On Friday night, I was having a conversation with a 21-year-old gentleman and a 19-year-old girl. We were talking at a restaurant, and I brought up the subject of Steven Spielberg. And they didn't know who he was. And I said, well, this is an anomaly. This is an anomaly. And so I grabbed a couple other people, and I grabbed one of the bus boys. I asked the hostess. I just started asking people.
Yeah.
And so to be fair, they had heard of E.T. and they had seen Jurassic Park, but they didn't know who Steven Spielberg was. And I was so shocked. And it wasn't like 1 or 2 people. It was like everyone in that generation. And I'm sure, look, I know a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people on my podcast that are 20, 21, 22, know exactly who it is.
Right.
And they're passionate about film. But I'm telling you, that was the moment where I realized I was really starting to get old, and it scared the shit out of me. I was like, if you don't know who Steven Spielberg is.
It sounds like their parents didn't raise them right.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Or Steven Spielberg needs a new publicist.
Apparently.
No. To quote The Simpsons, it's not you, it's the children who are wrong.
I'm glad I got to share that, by the way, because I've been holding that inside all weekend going, this, did I dream that? Was that a dream? It was insane. And yeah, it's a real thing, unfortunately.
That is unfortunate. So this was super fun. Dana, where can people find you?
So my show is called The Dana Buckler Show, and it's available wherever podcasts are found, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow the show at Dana Buckler Show. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Dana Buckler. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's The Dana Buckler Show. Again, thank you so much for having me on here.
I'm so glad we finally made it happen. Margo, where can people find you?
You can find me on social media at Brooklyn Fitchick, and that's mainly on Twitter and Instagram. I don't visit Facebook there very often. And my blog is brooklynfitchick.com.
And you can find me at The Sonia Show on Twitter and thesoniashow.com. And you can follow Dorking Out at Dorking Out Show on Twitter and Facebook. And we have our website, and you could go to Apple Podcasts and give us a good review. That would be amazing because all of our reviews are super old, and they're about the old host. And you guys super love Margo. Give her a good review. What's wrong with you? Get on there. And then this was super fun as always. Thank you so much, Dana, for coming on the show.
It's been a delight. I can't wait to do this again sometime. And I got to have, Margo has been a guest on my show a number of times, and I'm looking forward to having Margo back on. But you have got to come on my show sometime.
I
you have to.
Be honored.
We will set this up sooner than later.
Oh my God,
I'm
so excited now.
So,
you
absolutely.
just made my day.
Let's do it.
Yay. So. Okay, well, we got to go because we got cows.